mean,
it is. It's crazy. Rick and I, for the last 3 years, have been working on translating this to a TV show, and the whole time we were like, they're never going to let us do this. They're never going to let us do this.
Yeah, there's a lot of dark elements and a lot of backgrounds of the characters that are very dark as well. Can you tell us about some of maybe the things you can't put in TV due to certain issues?
I mean, as far as the way we're approaching that, there's nothing that we're necessarily saying that we can't put on TV. We love all the backstories of the characters, and we want to try to preserve the characters that Wes and Rick created. But we also have to be sensitive to the world, and so we want to always make sure that anytime there is violence or anything like that, that we make sure that we're saying something about it and not just being salacious and really unpacking the ramifications of it.
Yes.
Sure, absolutely.
So that we don't have Mick join. Thank you.
Old Mick.
All right.
What's up, everybody?
Hello. Thanks for joining us.
Right.
So we definitely have lots of questions.
Cool.
Glad to have you join
Might
us.
as well answer all of them. It's going to be pretty great.
Yeah. So
Just give me a back rub while I'm doing
Okay.
we
that.
should all just have a chain, right, in this circle.
Yeah, it's that time of day.
That would be amazing.
One thing I thought was really awesome about the comics was the monochromatic look from sequence to sequence. Like it will start off with blue to like blood orange to red, based on the types of things that were going on.
Yeah.
Are we going to see that type of lighting and mood lighting in the TV series, or is that not something that translates well for television?
Well, the approach that we took was mainly to go after a very cinematic look. What you will see is that in King's Dominion there is a very kind of monochromatic look in the school, and then when you get out into the 80s world, we're really kind of embracing this more like gritty, cool style out in the world. A model that we were kind of chasing was like David Fincher, and our director Lee Toland Krieger, as well as Tim Ives, the director of photography, did an amazing job, translating the world. I love Lee Lowridge's, the coloring that he does in the book. That's certainly an idea we're playing with for certain moments.
Yeah, and speaking of the 80s, especially in the comic book series, you see like nods to Morrissey and things, or sorry, the 90s. It was 90s.
87.
The 80s, yeah, 87, 90s. Are we going to hear some of the music of more that 80s culture? I know that some of the outfits are definitely 80s in the series. Can you let us know, are we going to start to hear some of that music and see a lot of that vibe and keep it true to the 80s?
Yeah, 100%.
And there certainly will be needle drops, which will probably bring you back to a very specific place, or probably introduce you to a band that you have heard a little bit because it is so era specific, but also as an homage to people that are truly fans of that era and that music. There will be B-sides that really only true fans of that band or that era would really recognize as an homage and kind of a tip of the hat to their fandom.
Yeah, when we drop the pilot is a straight up mixtape from Rick Remender. So you guys will get a little bit of everything. We go punk, we go hip hop. It's going to be great. And as far as 1987, we want to do what Mad Men did for that time period. We want to be that specific, and we want to show you a side of 1987 that you might not get in like a Steven Spielberg movie, which we love. But we're exploring the other side, which is kind of the subcultures, the punk and the hip hop and the metal kids, and all those kids that need their story told as well.
This is not Euphoric Recall, where we're repainting that era with some wonderful light. It's grounded, it's real, and it's nuanced. And when it's ugly, and we're going to sit in it for a little bit.
I'm very much looking forward to it, especially being a fan of the comics. And being a fan, I'm just kind of curious. There are some amazing classes that these students will be partaking, such as beheading, assassination psychology, to name a few. How prominent will these actual classes be in the series? And do you have any favorite classes that these kids will be taking?
I have one that I want to tell you guys about so bad, but I don't want to ruin the surprise.
Yeah. There are some very interesting classes, but it's not necessarily a class of the week. It's not an assassination of the week. This is just a story about some young people in their lives through the prism of this kind of heightened world. So really, it's just about them and their emotions and their friendships and their interactions, and then everything else just elevates that. But there's no trickery where we're using that and then going down. We're starting from the human moments and going up.
And we also love to use the class to show the kids interacting and kind of what they're talking about when they're supposed to be paying attention to class.
Yeah.
And it's also a way for other viewers to connect with them on a level like these. I know someone like that. I may not have taken an assassination class, but I know, these are the things we go through. How much of you and your school and class experiences have you been able to put into the series, or is there something you relate to most of all in the series itself?
Yeah, when I first read the comic book, this is probably 4+ years ago. What drew me to it most wasn't like the heightened world and the fact that the cliques are the Yakuza and the cartel. It was really that I felt like Marcus at that time in my life, and so there was a connection and a truth and an authenticity to what Rick and Wes were creating that felt like I might not have gone to a school for assassins, but I remember how this felt, and I remember how it felt when this girl did this, and I remember how it felt when I sat on the steps by myself and no one would talk to me, and that universal truth, I think, is what makes the show special. Not just the fact that they're backflipping and kicking and doing all of that. What people are really going to connect to is the humor and the relationships and that real authentic emotion that you remember from that time.
If you were in this world, what clique would you guys be in?
So I was a part of the Chicago punk scene in the 80s, and from June of my 7th grade summer to November of my freshman year, I had no parents, so I panhandled on the street and stole food at certain times in my life. So I relate to Marcus on a fundamental level in his struggle. I always had a place to go home to. I never lived on the streets, but it was an empty apartment. So I relate to the rebelliousness of it. I relate to being a loner, no matter where I go, and just having to survive day to day, and then falling out over time. The more I'm exposed to people and opening myself up, trusting them a little more, and then easing my way in. But I hung out with the skaters and the punk rockers.
Thank you. That's amazing.
You can't follow that.
We're going to wrap up here. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you all.